Hi everybody in YouTube land. I hope you're doing well. On a couple of videos ago, previously I said that imagination versus facts has been convoluted and that people do not understand the difference between imagination and facts. Mathematics and science are two separate things. Math will only become science once it adheres to the scientific method, which is empirical. But they are separate for a reason, because they are concepts. Math is conceptual, and it will only stay conceptual until it's brought into existence. I'm going to give you guys a video to watch. I enjoy this show because they deal strictly with science, and they talk about how we have been tricked into believing what science is not and believing it is science. Now, these are basic principles of science. The scientific method has to have certain criteria that it follows. And one of the main things that science, real science, has to have is a demonstration. And I've said this repeatedly, and it doesn't seem to register with people. They like to use words like it's my opinion or it's my belief. They're not opinions or beliefs. These are facts. Just like if you go outside and the grass is the color of green and someone says to you, that's your opinion. It's not my opinion. It's the color of green. That's your imagination. It's not my imagination. It's the color of green. Math is a concept. It's not real until you make it real. It has to become tangible to become part of the realm of science. I don't understand what people don't understand about this. Like, your minds have been taken. When you went to school, there was mathematics and science. And there were two different categories because they're two different things. They're not the same. No matter how much you want to make them the same, they are not the same. And I've tried at a long amount of time trying to get this through to people, that math and science are separate entities and they have different characteristics to them. Science is physical. It's the physical world that you exist in. It, like physicists, physical, that's real science. But math, it's all conceptual. You're going to have to watch the video if you really, really do. Because chances are, just hearing me talk, your mouth is going to spit verbal diarrhea at me. You're going to say all sorts of nasty comments. You're not going to listen to a fucking word I say because you, as a person, think in your mind that you already know. All science proves that the earth is a flat, stationary plane. Science does not prove that you're on a ball spinning in space, breaking all sorts of laws of nature, of science, empirical science, the laws of entropy, of gas pressure without a container. I mean, you can't demonstrate gas pressure without a container. Can you show me a demonstration of gas pressure without a container? No, you can't. But you'll go on with your maths and talk about math. That's fine. But that's not science. That's in your fucking head. Until you bring it into the light of science, until you make it physically a tangible thing and demonstrate it, it's all in your mind. And that's where it'll stay. I assure you, you will never, ever demonstrate gas pressure without a container. Doesn't matter what links you send me. Guaranteed, the link you send me will involve a container. Doesn't matter if the container doesn't have a top to it. It's still a container. And you can use bromine or any type of gas you want in the bottom of a fish tank. That gas will inevitably succumb to entropy. Over a period of time, all the gas in that fish tank will leave. That does not happen on Earth. Not to mention that there's a thing called a bottle garden, and it's been around for a long time. And what it is it's a plant that's inside of a bottle that's completely sealed with a bit of water that was put in there. The only thing that this plant requires for a fully functional ecosystem is a source of light. So there's bottle gardens that have been around for 50 years now. You can look it up. They've never been opened. And they're a self-recycling ecosystem, a dynamic system, which is exactly what you live in right now, with gradient pressure and everything in a sealed container. In my opinion, actually, I wouldn't even use the word opinion. That's too light. The facts are that is a demonstration of a dynamic system of literally what we're living on right now in a container. Enjoy the show. Or don't. You already know. You know everything. Make sure there's a globe in your classroom. Make sure you're wearing your mask. And be the first to line up for your needles. Have a good life. It might not last that long.
You know, that you sat there and say, hey, I just can't understand how this was, concluded as being correct, and we need another way of looking at this.
Well, you tell me. I mean, you said that something scientific that you had looked into that gives you your current outlook, that you are presumably on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum. I mean, if you can tell me what science there is, I'll make a statement first. There is absolutely no scientific evidence whatsoever to prove you're on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum. The heliocentric model is merely a philosophy. But if you can offer me what you think is science, I'm more than happy to tell you how it isn't.
Well, to me, the aspects of physics, and its explanations and its theories and its models and such that explain things, I find a lot of validity in them because they seem to be, in the aspects of the conclusions you come from them, seem to be concrete and accurate. And I don't just say that because someone said that to me, because I went to school just like everybody went to school, and I had to do experiments and classes and stuff like that because that was part of the activity we had to do. And so I went through that, and those things,
What are those things? What things?
Excuse me?
What things? You're kind of vaguely telling me about your school experience. Just tell me one of the things specifically.
The aspects of, let's say, one thing that stands out to me is the aspects of determining how far a ball will go if it's shot, let's say, from a cannon. And, going to the aspects of determining how far it will go based on the equations that have been developed for the actual explanation of, a ball flying through the air. So stuff like that.
That would be maths, not science.
Well, I would say that science has an extensive, correlation to mathematics, because mathematics is used to explain a lot of the explanations of where the sciences come from.
That's fascinating. You'd be wrong.
Maths are abstract and conceptive. I like to stress the word con in there. Please continue listening.
Are you disagree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, you are wrong. Maths is maths. It's working in the abstractions of mathematics. It's language, it's descriptions. Science establishes cause and effect So science and maths are very different things. Calculating things is maths. It's abstract. Science,
Right.
physics deals with the physical. Physical, not maths. Different things.
But you don't believe any of the equations that you see described in physics.
You said you had experiments.
It's an actual mathematical.
You told me about
equation.
science. Well, why are you now telling me about what I don't accept in maths when it's abstract? It's not real. It's not physical. It's not real. So I don't care about maths. You said you had science, though. You said you had some experiments. But can you tell me one? I've made a declaration there isn't any.
I'm just going by in the aspects of, let's say, what I was taught and what I was learned,
which is
as
what?
I gone through school and stuff like that. As
what's that?
What I perceived as, let's say, science, mathematics.
You said, what is it though, specifically? Not what you've done at school. Just tell me specifically. You've said maths and stuff so far. What scientific evidence? That would be physics, in the physical. So physics deals with the real world, the physical and natural world. So if you can offer me something that suggests...
I understand what you're saying there, but what I'm saying is that with respect to what I learned, there was an extensive amount of mathematics that was involved. And so that's where I'm getting lost, because you're saying that they're two completely different things.
Maths and science,
from my perspective, they're actually very correlated. So
no, they're not.
For me, I kind of said,
no, they're not.
I can't
You're just
see
wrong.
why...
You're just wrong.
Hey?
They have different titles for a reason. Maths is maths. It's abstract. It's language. It's descriptions. Physics deals with physics. It's physical. They're very different. One is abstract, not real. Abstract maths. The other deals with the physical and natural world. Cause and effect reasoning based on experiments. Now, you've used the word experiments, then gone on to tell me all about the maths you've reified. When people take things from the abstract, that's maths, and put them in the real, that has a term. It's called reification. It's where you misplace the concrete nature of something which has no concrete nature. That's abstractions and maths. But if you have some experiments, I've already declared factually accurately that there are none to prove this abstraction of a model. Not physical, not real, merely your religious belief in mathematical abstractions, not science, not physics.
Okay, so we'll go with respect to those statements you're making, and you just feel that the two things are technically different concepts or different topics.
No, they are.
That there actually is. They actually have no correlation. That you can't sit there and say, I can use mathematics as a basis for, let's say, the science that I'm talking about, because there's no way for the mathematics to validate the science because they're two different things.
You seem to be completely ignoring me. So they are different things. They've got different titles. And I've explained this is the third time. One is abstract. That's maths. One deals with the physical. That's physics. Now, physics is the study of the physical and natural world. And that is dealt with by science, experiments, hypotheses, cause and effect reasoning. Nothing to do with maths. So it seems, I'm not being rude, but before you interrupt me, it seems you don't know what science is, but you thought your religion, based on reification of mathematics, was based on science. It isn't.
Okay. I have to admit that to me I find very confusing, and my question really relates to the aspects of determining actually how you got to where you got to, and I'm kind of wondering is, did you always think that the aspects of mathematics and the aspects of science were two completely different topics, and that there was really no correlation between them? Or is this something you actually evolved into from, let's say, things you've said, things you've read and things you've talked about with people that made you came to this conclusion? I know you said the aspect of coming to the flat earth, realization was something almost an epiphany, but I'm kind of wondering, was this aspects of saying, there's no proof for it because you can't use, a topic that everybody utilizes for the description as a basis because you don't feel that they can be used. And I'm kind of wondering, how did you come to that conclusion? If it was a conclusion you came to, or if it was just something you always felt?
I've proven it to you right here and right now, though, haven't I? You haven't offered me any science. You've not offered me an experiment. You've told me that I should reify mathematics, which is abstract. It took me 3 attempts to explain that to you. You talk through me, even though you waffle on.
Even describing this to an individual, it just falls on deaf ears. They don't understand. They believe that their abstract math or their conceptual math is real. Even though they can't bring it into the light, so to speak. They cannot actually make it tangible and have an experiment and evidence and so forth and so on. They just believe their numbers to be more real than real science. It's quite depressing and alarming.
For about 10 straight minutes with a question that never comes. I've been about 30 seconds into this statement and you're already interrupting me, so you're obviously keen to talk. I understand. You have a religious belief, and you have reified mathematics into the physical world. That's what you have done. You're asking me about my belief in the obvious and observable flat nature of our world, which they teach to school kids. They tell them how flat and obviously and observably flat it is. They also tell them about the model and how it was invented, and how you should reify it into physical existence. That's what you're taught. Now you've told me all about what you taught. You thought you had science. You don't. Science deals with the physical world. And there isn't any to prove you're on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum with people antipodal hanging off the bottom of the ball. All of that stuff's nonsense. There's no scientific evidence for any of this stuff. So I don't have any beliefs. You're asking me continually about how I have come to this belief, and I don't have one. While simultaneously...
This is what I mean. They say your belief, your opinion, your idea. It's not a belief or an opinion. It's science. Real science. You're so convoluted and polluted in your heads that you don't even understand what real science is anymore. You think you can point and declare and use mathematics and that's going to be your truth? It's all in your head. You're fucking retarded. You're retards. I think literally fucking retarded.
Ignoring and interrupting me while I point out that you have a belief. You have a belief that you're on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum in violation of natural law. You don't have any science to back that. That's your religious belief that you hold and I don't. Not the other way around.
Okay. I apologize if I was interrupting you. I really didn't mean to do that, so I didn't mean to interrupt you as you were speaking. If I did do that, again, I apologize. Maybe the aspect of where you said that I was taught, I'm going to assume you actually went through the educational system too, and I'm going to assume that you were taught these same things, or at least you were exposed to these same things, and I'm kind of wondering, did you have a issue or a problem with these things that you were taught? Or was it something that you came to some point where you said to say, this stuff doesn't sound correct, but I did go through the process of actually going through the educational system that taught me it, or that exposed it to me?
What's incorrect now? Sorry, what have I said is incorrect other than your assertion that maths is science? I haven't said anything's incorrect about my teachings at my school that I went to.
No, I'm not saying they're incorrect or not correct. What I'm saying is, I'm going to assume you went through the standard education system in the country that you're in, and I'm going to assume that they taught you the concepts of, the earth and that, and it's a globe and all that kind of stuff. And I was just kind of wondering, as you were going through that process of learning, did you feel at that time that this was something that was incorrect, or was it something that you evolved into becoming more aware of as you went through, say, your life, and you, let's say, went through school, you got out of school, and you said, hey, there's something wrong here?
Okay. No, they taught you the same as they taught me, which was that it's a model, the heliocentric model, sun-centric.
Heliocentric. Hell. Again, there's hell in there. Heliocentric. Helios. DNA helix. You're in hell. And when you were born, you were held immediately.
Model. Well, we don't live on models. The real world's real and is dealt with reality, as opposed to philosophy and models. So when they told me it was a model, maybe I didn't appreciate, because I watched a lot of movies, that we don't actually live on a model. I might not have appreciated that at the time, but what they taught me was still strictly accurate. It's a model. The heliocentric model's just a philosophy. So was that inaccurate? No. They also taught me in 5th grade what science was. Cause and effect reasoning based on a hypothesis, independent and dependent variables. We were all taught that in 5th grade too. So it surprises me, given that you've harked on about education so much, why you would misunderstand what the difference between maths and science is, because we were all taught the same thing in 5th grade about what science was.
Yeah, maybe my interpretation is just different from yours, I guess.
It's wrong. You're just wrong. You think maths is science. Yours is incorrect. I tried to correct you 3 times, but you're just incorrect. You're incorrect. You are incorrect, unfortunately. You think that you've got proof for a sphere from maths, and you told me it was experiments in science. You were just wrong. It's okay.
I understand the fact that you believe I'm wrong, and I give you that. I give you
it's not my belief.
I give you that.
Very rude. It's not my
freedom
belief.
to believe. The aspects of that. So I'm not going to argue with it. That's what you believe. That's what you believe. So
no, it's not.
I'm not.
It's not a belief. I'll try again. Let me try once more. It is not my belief that you are wrong. You are in fact wrong. Maths is maths and is abstract. Science, physics is physical, and they are not the same thing. You are just...
What don't you get about that? Maths is maths. It's abstract. Science deals with the physical. What don't you get? Like, do you need a 2x4 over the fucking head with a nail in the end of it? What is not sinking in?
Misunderstanding. I'm trying to ask you, shockingly, why you think this, and now declare that it's my belief in you being wrong. It's not my belief. You are incorrect. You don't have to like that, but it's a fact. Maths is...
The grass is green. That's a fact. It's not a belief. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. And when you say this to somebody that thinks in this mindset of math, they'll say, oh, that's your opinion. Oh, that's your belief. No, it's a fact. The grass is green. It is what it is. You're going to have to deal with it. Grow up, little children. Grow up.
Maths, science is science. You were taught this in 5th grade. We all were. You've just misunderstood because you've reified a model that's taught with maths. But you thought it was physical.
Yeah.
You thought you were on a globe, and you were wrong. And you're very triggered and want to talk to me while I say this, even though you've apologised for interrupting me already. Yeah. I understand. I deal with people like this all the time that have a religious belief and want to interrupt me while I'm pointing that out to them because they don't like the fact that it's being highlighted that I, in fact, do not have a religious belief as much as you want to spend hours with long, drawn-out questions about me and my belief. I don't have one. You, on the other hand, have a belief about a ball that flies through a vacuum based on maths, not physics, not experiments, not science. I nearly got to the end, didn't I, without 4 interruptions. But thank you. It's a really fun interview so far.
Experiments, such as gas pressure without a container. Can you demonstrate that? No, you can't. I don't really care about your math. Your math isn't demonstrating anything. The grass is green. That's a fact. You don't have to like it.
Yeah. If I'm phrasing things a certain way that maybe is not, making you feel that I'm speaking concretely, I apologize for that also. I'm trying not to be too vague or too inconsistent. My questions really dealt with the aspects of just trying to understand where you came from and how you got to where you got to. And
I pointed out that you have a belief, though. You started off this by saying that you don't have religious beliefs, you're not a religious person. But you do. You have a religious belief that you're on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum. So if I may, there's a few points that I would like to cover with you, if that's okay with you, in terms of why that's not the case. I haven't got to cover any of those really, but obviously if you're in a rush to get off, I don't mind.
If you want to still talk about the topic, that's
Absolutely.
fine.
Sure. I can rattle my way through what I call the top 3 things that destroy the Earth being a sphere. So
this is pretty crucial that people listen to this because what he's talking about is real science. And not your silly little numbers on a piece of paper or your silly little numbers that you put on a calculator. Not your silly little numbers. Real science. Physical. Testable, repeatable, verifiable, demonstratable. I don't know what else to tell you, but you're just fucking dead in the head or something. You better listen up.
The Earth being a sphere is asserted by way of this begging the question fallacy, which is called a proof-of-nothing Earth curve calculator that has geometry and is based on an R value. And if...
When he says R value, he's always referring to radius, the distance, right? The center out, radius. So you better listen to this.
The Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That would be the geometric horizon. And we've got these images that show that the horizon, this claimed to be physical obstruction called Earth curve, is way beyond the distance and parameters and constraints of this physical geometry laid down in the maths. Now, as a result, we are told by the people, at least...
I'm going to dumb this down for people. The physical geometry of the Earth, based on the size of the Earth. It has to have a geometry. If you're going to assume it's a sphere, you're going to have certain trigonometry to verify this. Using trigonometry, you're going to be able to understand. But it fails. Your trigonometry fails every single time. The distances are ridiculously further than what your trigonometry is saying on a spherical Earth. So, you're busted. You're liars.
On my show, Flat Earth Debate, that we don't have a geometric physical sphere edge horizon. The thing can't be seen, which leaves the model of a sphere Earth in complete tatters, because if you can't see the geometric horizon to measure it, you can't acquire an R value to assert physical geometry, leaving the idea of physical geometry in complete tatters. We call this argument the black swan. It's our number one debunking of the globe Earth, begging the question fallacy that is to assume an R value and then reify it into existence at the point you see the world converge, the horizon, a non-physical location that people think is the edge of the Earth for boats to go over. It isn't. The horizon's not physical. But we've debunked that with this argument called the black swan. So moving on, the sky, I mentioned a few times, is not a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we all enjoy breathing would fill the availability of space. And irony of irony, they call that area space.
Nature abhors a vacuum. Do you understand that? The air will immediately go into the vacuum. There's nothing holding on any air on a spinning ball, a water ball inside of a vacuum. Little children, you need to grow up. You need to put your little religious book down and stop looking at NASA and their little liars. And everybody thinks, oh, yeah, your virus, don't worry. Go run, get your little needles, get your little shots. Go run and get your needles. Whatever the TV tells you, it must be true, right? Nobody's lying to you. Everybody wants to tell you the truth. Nobody wants your money. They're really genuinely concerned about you. If you believe that, you deserve your fucking fate.
Outer space, a vacuum, which it definitely isn't, because we'd have no gas to breathe. There's a natural law called the second law of thermodynamics, which would imply that the gas would want to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. It will expand in all directions to fill space. And if space was a space, the gas would fill it, and we'd all be dead. We're not. Therefore, the sky is definitely not 10 to the minus 17 vacuum, as is asserted. Last but by no means least, it's asserted that we have a 15 degree in our turn of the Earth underneath any...
This is amazing what he says right now. If you have a 15 degree a mile per hour turn underneath the sky, that would prove your Coriolis, and that's what they say there is. But then you'll turn around and say everything turns together. But then you'll turn around and say, oh, well, a pendulum, a plane, a bullet, it is being moved, but it's not. Then the helicopter is stationary, but the helicopter moves with it. They just pick and choose what they want because they're filthy fucking liars. Just listen.
Anything that leaves the Earth. It's asserted by things like snipers, and it's called the Coriolis effect. That's its most familiar name. It asserts that things that leave a turning Earth will from the ground at least, be experienceable with a deflection at 15 degrees an hour. Unfortunately, that would imply that if you took off on a helicopter, you'd be able to wait for the country west of you to come to you as the Earth turned underneath. Also, a drone, you'd launch it off at the equator and it would fly away at 1,000 miles an hour as you turned underneath it. Obviously, these things don't happen even though they're asserted to. So we don't have Earth turn, we don't have a sky vacuum, and we don't have physical geometry as is reified by a mathematical model called the heliocentric sphere-Earth model, by way of begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. We don't live on a sphere. The Earth is obviously and observably flat.
Okay. Thanks for that input. I've heard those arguments before, so I understand where they came from. I appreciate the fact that you want to make those statements, just to point out the aspects of your facts that you're basing your beliefs. If I say beliefs, I apologize. To me, it's almost tripping that I say that statement just to.
The grass is green, that's a fact. You know where you can stick your fucking mouth.